I'm going to give the Golden State Warriors credit for this. They were down by over 30 points. It was a wash. This game was over. And then the reserves came in. Pat Spencer's headbutting Alperen Şengün. Trayce Jackson-Davis is getting kicked out for shoving Alperen Şengün. Braxton Key has potential. Moses Moody making some tough buckets. And look, they're going to lose this game. But the fact that they made it interesting in the fourth quarter was awesome. It was also a friendly reminder that a bench unit that brought size into the game suddenly was making some noise. There is no coincidence there. Okay, that is not an accident. Size matters in the NBA. And we're going to give you coverage of a game that was a blowout, still was an ass kicking. And let's hopefully try and have some fun doing so, because it's going to come down to a game 6 for the Golden State Warriors now in terms of closing out this series, not a game 5. Larry Krueger, Frank Coccimiglio, Rye Smith, Frank Red, they're joining the party. So are you. So let's get into it. They're going to join me in just a second. Thanks for putting up with me at the moment. This is the Krug Show. This is the Golden Days.
Woo! Let's go. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Welcome to the Krug Show. Welcome to Golden Days. Larry Krueger is going to join the party in just a second. He literally just got off the air hosting his daily program at KNBR, which he does every night from 6 to 7 p.m. He will join us in just a second. Frank Red's going to join us. Dan Coccimiglio is going to join us. Rye Smith is going to join us. And who knows who else. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of a game that is now a final, the Golden State Warriors finally coming to grips with reality here. And the reality is a 131-116 loss that reduces a 3-1 series lead to 3-2. Game 6 will be in Chase Center Friday night. So let's hope Friday night is a party for everyone involved. But before we get into it, and before we welcome all the guests to the program who will be showing up in just a moment, got to give some love to at least Golden Days' sponsors. You'll hear from Larry Krueger's clients in just a second. But I have two in particular that at this point in time I want to pump up before we get rolling. First and foremost, Decades Official, a band that is awesome. They really are. I've never in my life experienced a cover band who, when I decided to go check them out, just in terms of the type of music they play, just their image, their style, I ended up just listening to their music for I literally listened to every video that they posted. I set it up, just had to go back and forth. They play fantastic tunes that covers a wide range of both genres and styles and time periods. We're talking music ranging from Chuck Berry to Katy Perry, everything from the 1950s to today. Music for all age groups could be played at your event. That's what Decades does. They're a band. They play music, awesome music, and they could play your wedding. They could play your company event. They could play your anniversary, your fundraiser, your birthday, or even if it's just a good old-fashioned backyard rager, Decades is there for you. They're locals. They're from Chico, California. They're Niners fans. They also play literally every pregame rally for the 49ers when they're at home next door at their red zone rallies. This is the band playing music for that. They also played a set for Eddie D at his Montana home once upon a time not that long ago. They played fundraisers for individuals and organizations, including the Bolitnikoff Foundation, which is run by former Raiders legend Fred Bolitnikoff. They're Golden Dazers, and they could be hired by you to play your event. Reach out to Kyle at atomicmusicgroup.com. Again, Kyle at atomicmusicgroup.com to hire them. Mention that the program sent you, whether it's my name, whether it's Golden Days, whether it's Rick Barry. You can mention Larry Krueger, whoever it is. mention a name associated with this program. They'll give you a discount. Go visit decadesofficial.com to get more information. Well, have I been sharing the screen with their name? I have not. Please forgive me for that. Oh, and I'm seeing the crew start to show up now. So the party will resume in just a second here. But again, Decades Official, and I'll leave this up for a second so you can see what they're all about while I give some love to the other sponsor of Golden Days, and that is Visit Humboldt. And Visit Humboldt is all about letting you know of an unbelievably beautiful getaway for Californians, more specifically Northern Californians, and it's a short drive away. 3 to 4 hours is all it takes for you to go check out national parks, state parks, one of the most photogenic, one of the most beautiful areas in all of California, and that is Humboldt County. You could DM me. I was once a resident up there living in Arcata, California, a former student at Humboldt State University, also known, or now known, as Cal Poly Humboldt. It's a beautiful setting. Go check it out. These videos and images right here give you a glimpse of the giant redwoods, giant sequoias, the beaches. They have breweries that are phenomenal. Steelhead, try it out. Thank you later. Wineries, places to eat. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. Visit Humboldt.com is the website. Go check it out again and thank me later. And look at this. I got the man whose name is on the show, Larry Krueger. Let me stop sharing the video. Krug is in the house, the hardest working man in Bay Area sports. I call him the king of Bay Area sports media. You literally just got off the air at KNBR. But look at this. It's not just us, Larry. We got Dan Coccimiglio joining the show. The party is filling up. I'm going to shut up because I've been talking for a little while here straight. Larry, good to see you. Dan, good to see you. Larry, we'll start with you. It's your show as much as mine. How are you doing? Your immediate reaction to the Warriors getting their ass kicked. I teased this in the cold open. It was great to see the reserves make this a fight. Good to see you too, Larry. We'll start with you. If you got sponsors, you got ideas, I'm going to shut up. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm pissed off. I'm absolutely pissed off. Who the hell invited Dan Coccimiglio? No, that's not what I'm pissed off about. I love Dan Coccimiglio. No, I expected the Warriors. I didn't bet the Rockets tonight, but that's just because I had other things going on. If I actually wanted to sit there and think about it for a few minutes, I would have bet the Rockets because this was the get right game. Come on, the Warriors had very little intensity in this game. Very little intensity. The Rockets. My big question was: were the Warriors going to be able to withstand the opening salvo of the Rockets? And once Steph got shut out in the first quarter, it was pretty much thanks for coming. So, I mean, the Rockets got off to a good start. They had energy. They're desperate. They were playing with desperation. The Warriors are an interesting team under Kerr. When they have games to play with, they play with them. When they have an ability to take their foot off the gas, they take their foot off the gas. So I expected the Rockets to win this game, and I expected this series to go long. It's the Warriors are going to win the series, and the Warriors are going to be in control of the series since game one. But these things take time, and it's going to go at least 6.
Dan Coccimiglio, Frank Red in the house. Great to see everybody. The party is now together. Misery loves company. Let's commiserate together in terms of the Warriors getting their asses kicked, except for that fourth quarter. And I think there's a lot to break down there. But Dan, you were here first. Great to see you, brother. What was your reaction to this game?
Just is discouraging from the outset. When it first quarter when they ran off like 15 straight, and it's like, dang, do the Rockets ever miss? I mean, Fred VanVleet just took off where he left off on game 5 or 4. And it's just like everything was going in. They shot 69% in the first half. You're not going to win no matter how good you poorly or how well you play. A team that shoots 69%, a lot of that had to do with them not being very good on defense. But the fact that they were 69%, you're not going to win games like that. You're just not.
Yeah. And again, they were losing by over 30 in the third quarter. The reserves come in, make it a night. Some paid chats right off the bat. Rich Alexander dropping $4.99, saying Stephen Curry was pathetic tonight. Stop turning the damn ball over so damn nonchalantly. Others passing up open shots. Go drive to the bucket and see contact. Stephen Curry tonight finished with 13 points. Did have 3 turnovers in 23 minutes, 27 seconds of play. 3 of 9 shooting from beyond the arc. 4 of 12. So 33% shooting, whether it was from 2 or 3 for this evening. 7 assists in this game, but the 3 turnovers being called out by Stephen Curry. Frank, great to see you. What's your reaction to Rich Alexander's critique of Steph and your overall reaction to the Warriors losing 131-116 tonight?
I think Steph is probably a little tired. And when he gets tired, we usually see it after he's played 35, 36 minutes in a game. But I think that there was some lingering from the last game. And so when I look at Stephen, I look at him differently. I don't look at like the average player making turnovers. I look at how much is he playing? Is he tired? He has some bad habits. Actually, one of the greatest players of all time has some bad habits. Those one-handed passes he's been throwing since he came to the Bay Area. And, coaches have tried to talk to him about it, but that's kind of a part of what he does. He knows better. And when he's tired and he's being pressured by really good defenders, he turns the ball over. With that said, you know what? I expected Houston to win this game unless they just fell flat. And I would have lost a lot of respect for Ime Udoka had that happened. Fred VanVleet, I think, has given his team confidence, how well he played in the Bay. He had 26 points tonight. And they make free throws early. So that was another key. So, I think the Warriors were playing chess a little bit, kind of hedging their bets for Friday night. And they need to get it done on Friday. The one challenge I have with the Warriors is karma. I'm a big karma guy.
Me too.
And I think that it's almost gotten a little personal with Kuminga. And I don't like that. It doesn't mean I don't root for the Warriors, but it's almost like I'm going to show you that we can win without you. We don't need you. And when you're a teammate, I think that can be
Frank, I'm going to stop you real fast here for a second, just because I'm guessing you did not realize. I didn't realize this until midway through.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. He wasn't eligible to play. Yeah.
But did you know that he was out tonight with an illness?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, then go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I don't. I'm not. If Steve Kerr told me that he was injured, okay, I'm not going to call him a liar. But what? Would he stub his toe? His stomach hurt? What? This is the playoffs. You're not going to put the uniform on? We've seen Jordan throw up on the court, 103 degrees. Oh, I got an illness. I'm not going to play in the biggest game of my life. I want somebody to pay me $150 million.
So the kids like to use a word called sus, which applies to anything that's suspicious, obviously. Larry, what's your take on that? Kuminga, again, I had no idea he was out tonight. And then when I saw the reserves come in and Kuminga wasn't one of them, I initially was kind of taken aback. I'm like, look, I get that he's not one of Kerr's favorites, but you just bench him in garbage time. That was like another level to all this, I thought. And then I got corrected and informed that he was out with an illness tonight. We have no specifics, at least I don't, in terms of what the illness is. Maybe they keep him away for contagion purposes. Who knows? But Larry, Frank had a strong take there, and I don't know if he's wrong. You can't prove it either way, but he might be onto something. Larry, what are your thoughts on that?
Look at all the guys who played. He was the only guy who didn't play on the entire team. They're trying to send a message. And it's, what the message should be? We fucked up. That's the message. You fucked up, Joe Lacob. You fucked up, Kirk Lacob. You screwed up, Steve Kerr. You guys screwed it up. There is no answer. You either were wrong to not trade this guy at the trade deadline, or you're wrong to not be utilizing him now, but he is the 7th pick in the draft. He's one of the most athletic players in the NBA. This guy, you better have a real reason for why you're not playing this guy, and it better be legit. Otherwise, whoever's authoring these decisions, beat it. It's tired. It's ridiculous. You're not going to win. You're not going to the finals. Is the goal to see how far we can get without trying our best? Because if that's the goal, then way to go. But if your goal is to actually get far, this little, lesson for Jonathan Kuminga is tired. It's tired.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy better have robbed a bank. This guy better have done something really, truly freaking heinous. Otherwise, what are you doing? What are you doing? Pat Spencer can play 14 minutes. Freaking Kevin Knox can be your second leading scorer or whatever. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? If the 49ers did this, Shanahan would be getting raked.
Yeah.
If the 49ers next year go to the playoffs and he's benching Ricky Pearsall and playing donkeys over him, people would rip Shanahan to death. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Steve, I don't know what I'd love to cover you, but nobody ever filled me in on what the plan is. And it's at this point, it's like, it's really weird. It's like you got the people that cover the team and they kind of, they act like they're in the know, but they're not in the know. They have no idea what's going on. They're just kind of, they're just happening to have a closer seat to the floor than we do, but they don't know what's going on. And they don't want to say anything about it because then they would out themselves as not being true insiders. They're as outside as the guy in the upper deck. They don't want to admit that. So it's just like, yeah, he's not playing. And, we don't really know why. Wink, wink. It's like, no, you don't really know why. Forget your wink, wink. You're not an insider. You're an outsider. And we are all outsiders. And the only insiders are the people that understand this foolish move to bench your most athletic player against an athletic team. They're going to get out of this round, but they're not going anywhere without Kuminga and Moody playing both huge roles. I said it going into the playoffs, and I really believe it. They may get by this young Houston team. They will probably get by this young Houston team, but they're not going anywhere if they can't get Moody, Kuminga, Pods, and their youth some minutes. So there you go.
Strongly
that's my thought.
That's been my sentiment exactly. And you're right. I made a mistake before the playoffs started, which is that I underestimated the Rockets. I'm sorry. I overestimated the Rockets. I thought they were better than they actually are. They're missing a piece offensively, I think, to challenge a team like the Warriors. But I'm 1,000% with you where they can escape this series most likely without Kuminga, although going to game 6 makes this very precarious as well. And we could talk about that too. But I don't think, especially I look at teams like OKC, I look at teams like Boston. Like if you're serious about a deep run, I don't see how that happens. And I'm sure everyone has opinions on this. Real quick, paid chats I want to get to here, just because one thing that a sentiment that's being shared by a lot of people, Propa dropping $4.99, saying in 2022, when the Warriors won the championship, the Warriors had a 3-1 series lead on the Grizzlies and got blown out by like 50 in that game 5. So this has happened before. Kid Trickets, I think, if I get the right, Kid Tricksta, I'm sorry, dropping another $1.99 with similar sentiments. 2022, game 5, we lost by 40, been here before. A huge difference, in my opinion, however, between game 5 in 2022 and game 5 this year is the 3 years you've added to Stephen Curry and Draymond Green's mileage. It's significant. I don't think you can ignore the fact that with each game that passes, for example, in the chat tonight, a lot of people are bringing up that Steph and Draymond and Jimmy Butler look tired. Well, they're going to have the same amount of days off between now and game 6, same amount of days off between game 6 and game 7. If this was part of the script, to half-ass it tonight and save it for game 6, you're playing with fire, is my take on that, because this is an older team. There are no guarantees to begin with. But Dan, I'll start with you, just staying in order here. Your thoughts on Larry's comments, which again, I agree with wholeheartedly, about Kuminga and whether or not he's going to be used and his role in general, and the fact that the Warriors got their asses kicked tonight and the comparisons to 2022.
Yeah. First of all, I don't know what the use of Kuminga will be, if any, in this series, but I'm going to take a different approach to it. I don't think they're benching him intentionally without the team knowing what's going on, because that would be disastrous to cause a ruckus within, kind of within the building, to have some kind of where there's unfair treatment going on. I think players would be seeing that. I think either he did something that they don't want to say, and there's internal discipline that's happening, and so they just said take the night off, or he's truly sick. I don't think they're benching him intentionally like Kerr, I'm not going to play you no matter what. I don't see that, because if that was the case tonight, if he was like, and the game's a blowout, you know, I don't see the teams like, I don't think you want to upset a team right now that's up 3-2. You know?
Yeah, but here's the thing, Danny. I mean, look at it this way. What happens if at 2:00 today, Kerr, in all of his infinite wisdom, met with his coaches and said, you know what? We're not playing Jonathan tonight. And they told Jonathan, hey, Jonathan, we're not playing you tonight. And then it's like, well, how do you want to deal with this? If we don't play him tonight, we're going to get 9 questions about this. Oh, if we just say he's sick, we can kind of bully everybody into asking us no questions about this.
I don't think that settles well with Kuminga. If Kuminga, all he's got to do is say, I wasn't sick. And then now you got a big controversy.
But I mean, hurt, I would get that. But sick, he may want, it's going to, him not playing is costing him millions of dollars. All right. Correct. Millions of dollars. Okay. So this whole oh, this is kind of cute. It ain't cute. All right. It's not cute. It's costing him millions of dollars. So if I was him, if it came down to, hey, Jonathan, Steve and the coaches are benching you. Damn right I'm sick. I talked to my agent, and he said, we're sick. And guess what? I agree with my agent. Let's try to maintain some of my earning potential instead of just pissing it all away. I mean,
it could be that. I could see.
I just think that he's losing lots and lots of money. Every one of his DNP coach's decision, money is coming out of his pocket. And if I was his agent, I don't care what we got to come up with. I don't care if you got to make up some lie that, he's not playing because of the Hindenburg. I don't care what you have to say why he's not playing. But let's start making some decisions that are based on on our cash, because that's what this whole thing's about, right? And right. He's losing tons of cash, and the agent is too. So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Jonathan or the agent or any agent to say, I'm going to protect my clients' money-making ability, whether our stubborn Hall of Fame coach wants to play this guy or not. Stop screwing with my money. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I could see where there's a situation, like you said, where it's more of a Devondre Campbell type situation on Kuminga's part, saying, I'm not playing if you're not, versus the Warriors saying he's sick and he's not sick. You know what I mean? I could see Kuminga say, and the Warriors have to come up with an excuse. But I probably, if I'm a betting guy at this point, I would just say he's probably sick. There's a lot of people who've been sick recently. Okay. He might have a stomach bug. I don't know.
Do you know how many people
was he on the bench? Was he on the bench?
He was on the bench tonight. No.
Then he's probably sick. They probably keeping him away from everybody.
I don't know. I mean, I'll just say this, man. That's all. You know what, man? That's an awfully convenient thing, right? Because if he wasn't sick, there'd be an awful lot of questions, wouldn't there be? But now that he is sick, suddenly, poof, there's none. Ooh, it's amazing how that works. So I don't know. I hear you, Danny. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, but at some point, this is affecting Jonathan's cash in a huge way. Oh, yeah. And how much damage do you want to do to this young fella? That's all I would say. Come on, man. Maybe he doesn't know how to play quite the way you want him to. How much financial damage do you want to do to this young kid?
He's doing a lot. Yeah.
If they even came out and said he's sick, he has 103 degree fever. He has a hip point, something, because we're all intelligent people. We understand what sick is. But in your biggest game of your life, you're 22 years old, the healthiest you're ever going to be, and you're going to miss this game because you're sick? We deserve more than that. plus all the other ramifications about the financial aspects of it. Now, let me tell you something else.
I see it more on Kuminga's side than the Warriors.
Well,
Somebody in the chat said Pods was sick, but I mean, guys, come on, this is a different situation with Kuminga. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a totally different situation.
If he's either sick, I see one of three things. He's either sick, as they say, or he's saying he's not going to play and they're using the excuse that he's sick. I don't see it as
he's going to. You're saying he might be boycotting.
What I'm saying is I don't see Kuminga saying I want to play, and the Warriors are saying no, we're not going to play you. We're going to come up with you're sick. I don't see that.
Explain it better. All right. I mean, I'm not going to call anybody a liar. You know that would be disrespectful for me to call somebody a liar, but explain it. We understand what sick is. What type is a million different diseases or injuries?
Frank, I think you're asking for transparency, and
Yes.
which is one of my tenets. It's an ethos I strongly believe in. In game 2, Brandon Pajemski, the illness that he was dealing with, we learned it was food poisoning, right? And there was some inkling even before the game that the information was leaking out. He ate something bad. We didn't know what the specifics were, but he was there, right? And you could tell he looked awful. And I don't know why they were more transparent with that. You're right. When it comes to illnesses, this has been the story with the NBA as long as I can remember. Like if someone's sick, all they put on that injury report is illness. And they never provide specifics. But I also follow what you're saying, Frank, in that in a situation like this, game 5 of the playoffs, and a player is a very late scratch, you kind of want to know what the hell's going on. And I do hope the media who's covering this at Houston, at the Toyota Center, is going to ask Steve Kerr some more follow-up questions after this game. But someone else in the chat, by the way, because Kuminga's not the only one.
It's a tier 1 type question.
A what? A tier 1?
It's a tier 1 type question. We won't be broaching it here. I don't even know why we even brought it up here. We're not tier 1. And I mean, I may be someday. I think Frank could get there. Danny's never going to be tier 1. I'll say it right now. I mean, he's always going to be at least tier 2. Okay. And the fact that we're doing a live stream with somebody who's not in tier 1 kind of rubs me wrong. I got to be honest.
It lowers the cachet, the prestige of our program. I'm with
I just prefer tier 1. Okay.
Dragging the show down with, and
I just would like it if we had some more tier 1 type people.
Well, but Alolt in the chat writes that Steve Kerr also chose Buddy Hield, who's now been in the starting lineup for 2 straight games, over Moses Moody. And Adult adds, it makes no sense. And when he saw Moses Moody play tonight, I could understand those sentiments a little bit. He was part of that garbage time lineup who played, I believe, the entirety of the fourth quarter. Moses Moody in that fourth quarter, all 12 minutes, was 3 of 5 from deep, 5 of 11 from the field. He was aggressive, tenacious, a plus 12 in that fourth quarter, had 15 points in that fourth quarter, finishes the game tonight with 25 points because he also was playing some good minutes in the third quarter, all part of that comeback. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Larry, I'll start with you. Do you like that Buddy Hield is now the starting 2 guard after Steve Kerr was rolling with Moses Moody for like 2 months straight leading into the postseason? I thought he had his starting lineup set, but Steve Kerr, the mad scientist, is at it again. Do you like Moses Moody being out of the starting lineup for Buddy Hield? Your thoughts?
There's a backstory here too. I guarantee you there's some backstory because Moses is a good guy, and he probably, you wouldn't lose Moses if you sit him, but you may lose Buddy if you sat him. It's probably something along those lines. Has something to do with the personalities at play here. I mean, there's nothing that makes any basketball sense. That's for sure. And once again, I'm tired of making the same point, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing me make the same point. But how anybody could have watched this Warrior team with ancient Curry, ancient Green, add ancient Jimmy Butler, and not know that they were going to have to get significant contributions out of the youth to get to the finish line. And it's like everybody knew that except for Steve. And so Moody, you know what? It's not a priority. Kuminga, not a priority. It's like you're not getting there. You're not going to get to the destination if you don't use your young 24, 25-year-old lottery picks. You don't have that good of a roster. You don't have that many good enough players to win without your lottery picks. So, I mean, it's this cutesiness of, when they want, we've seen this movie so many times. It's like,
Yes.
the Warriors get into a tight game and here comes the small lineup, great. You're going to finish with the small lineup. Ooh, that's so creative. And it's like this whole, like, we're going to do this without our lottery picks because they're somewhat unreliable. All right. But the joke's going to be on you at the end because you're not going anywhere without your youth because your old guys are old.
Yeah.
And you needed to rely on your youth, and you look at it as like kind of an option. It's mandatory, and he doesn't seem to see the urgency.
I think tonight was a tactical game for the Warriors. If Houston was not hitting their shots and the Warriors were staying in the game, the Warriors would have stepped up the effort later. But the one thing they did not want to do is come out and extend all this energy and be in this game and lose it. And then Houston, being the younger legs, fresher, go in 2 days later. The Warriors didn't want to waste all that energy if they weren't going to be in the game. And that's why I think you saw them in the first quarter. They weren't playing defense very tenacious. They were letting Houston shoot. And I think it was a matter of Houston doesn't hit their shots, the Warriors start hitting their shots. There's a game. I think the Warriors push harder. But when they got behind by 20 in the first quarter, it was over. The Warriors were going to, if they hit their shots and somehow got back into the game, but they weren't going to extend all this energy knowing they've got game 6 at home. I just don't see it because if they pushed and pushed, well, the worst thing that could have happened tonight for the Warriors was to lose a very close, tough fought game. Because
I agree. They benefited in this game because none of their old guys played more than 25 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them losing tonight. I don't. But everything about what I know about basketball says that you got to have your best players. And one point I wanted to make about Stephen, Draymond, and Jimmy, they're all Hall of Famers. They have a mentality that says, Coach, I believe in you. I will get the job done. And then Father Time comes and knocks on their door and says, you know what? Not so fast. So, there is this push and pull between from the neck up, I can do it, Coach, versus I'm physically not able to do it. I got the Thompson twins running past me, jumping higher than me because they're just younger. At some point, there's an intersection between what I've done in the past, I'm great, versus my body just can't do it anymore. And that's why I had a problem with not having your best players on the floor. Even now, I mean, we can move past the Jonathan Kuminga thing because if he's sick, he's sick. But I find it strange, somebody like that. I would have to be on my deathbed not to play. That's all I would just say. So hopefully they'll win on Friday. They're a more veteran-esque team. But the fact that they're not playing all their best, it bothered me watching Braxton Key out there. I mean, give me a break.
Seriously.
Those are minutes that the other guys who are going to play in the game should be playing, not Braxton Key. So, I had a problem watching this.
Some other paid chats in here I want to highlight. Tommy dropping $5 saying, why is it that the Rockets can race 20-point leads on the Warriors, yet the Rockets maintain double-digit leads on the Warriors once they go up by 20? And I want to add something to this as well, because here's what stuck out to me that's concerning about the Warriors this series as they find themselves now leading 3-2. To me, Game 6 is must win. I'm going to think it's safe to say it's a universal opinion to share that you don't want this to go back to Houston for Game 7. You don't have KD on this team like you did in 2018. With all that said, I'm looking at the Warriors offense, and that's what's been concerning me the most this whole series. And it's why I personally think playing the best players is a smart strategy, like you said, Frank, so that you could get optimal output out of your best players. The Warriors offense in this series, game 1, 95 points, game 2, 94 points, game 3, 104 points, game 4, 109 points. Tonight, 116, but I think a lot of those points came in garbage time where you had a lot of reserves pouring it in. Offense is an issue for me. I also saw in the fourth quarter of tonight's game, reserves who were bigger than the starters, right? Braxton Key, Kevin Knox, Trace Jackson Davis. Pat Spencer was the only guy who you could constitute as being small, and he's a pretty physical, athletic guy himself. Moses Moody, that's a bigger lineup. And in that fourth quarter, I saw a lot of second chance points. I saw rebounding. Like the Warriors, dude, this stat is insane to me. If this is true, it is in the fourth quarter of tonight's game, the Warriors grabbed 16 offensive rebounds. 16. That's what size does. I never understand this. Like, Don Nelson triggered me clearly with the small ball stuff. I thought we were over that, past it, and Steve Kerr brings it back in full force. The size thing is a problem. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Warriors have a team high in scoring this game.
So you're saying size matters.
I'm saying size matters. Larry, what are your thoughts on that? Because chances are we're not going to see size again in game 6, even though it matters. Your thoughts?
Well,
Anthony Edwards
I
agrees with you, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely think that the impact of having a bigger team definitely but the Warriors were plus 10 on the glass in this game. The Warriors held their own points in the paint. They were even. There's been games where they've been beaten worse. To me, if you said why did the Warriors lose this game, because the Rockets did not feel Golden State's defense at all. At all. They didn't feel it at the 3-point line. They didn't feel it in the Rockets shot 55% in this game. 55%. They got any shot they wanted. They didn't press them as far as they didn't close out and squeeze them. They didn't feel Golden State's defense. I would say Green is the only guy on the entire team whose defensive effort was felt tonight by the opposition. The rest of the team, the Rockets got anything they wanted basically the entire game.
And the Warriors and the Rockets were tied in the rebounding battle at the half, 18 apiece. At the end of 3 quarters, the Rockets were winning that battle 29-24. At the end of 3 quarters, the Warriors were winning. The Rockets, in terms of points in the paint, were winning that battle 46-36. And then you add the fourth quarter to it, where again, the Warriors out-rebounded Houston in that fourth quarter, 25-10. They had 16 offensive rebounds in a quarter. If you told me that's a record, I would not be surprised. And the Warriors I was going to say one other factor is this game looked like the Warriors box scores before they had Jimmy.
Look at the free throw shooting. The Rockets took 38 free throws and made 32. They made 84% and they went to the line 38 times. The Warriors went to the line half as much.
Yeah.
And missed 7 free throws along the way. So, 22 free throw attempts to 38. That was definitely that's what the world was like before Jimmy showed up.
Yeah. Oh, he's changed that big time. But the offense remains a concern to me. Dan, do you have any thoughts on scoring? Because I think
the problem with the Warriors are having is the Rockets' zone defense.
Yes.
They are forced to be shooting these long threes with guys that aren't 3-point shooters, and they're throwing it up with like 1 or 2 seconds on the shot clock, and they're shutting down Steph, and they're forcing a lot of the other guys to beat them. They're saying, okay, let's prove it. See if you can do it again. And the Warriors, the first quarter, I'm not even sure if anybody walked and touched the paint on the Warriors tonight. They were just like couldn't even get close to the key, and that was really disheartening because I kept thinking, you certainly saw this zone. You got to have an adjustment for this by now.
Well, which is what makes, when an opposing defense plays the zone, what you should figure out immediately is, one, you're going to have wide open looks, especially in the perimeter. And two, you should be killing the opposition with offensive rebounds. And the fact that the Warriors are doing neither, despite facing a zone, is very concerning. And I think they're going to see a lot more of that schematic in Game 6. Frank, your thoughts on Dan's sentiments? Because I'm glad you brought that up. The zone D is a killer for the Warriors this series.
Well, watching this game just validated to me that Ime Udoka is one of the top coaches in the NBA. And
agreed.
Because, we marvel at how well Brandon Podziemski is playing, right? And making shots and scoring 27 points. But that's exactly what Ime Udoka wants him to do, because he doesn't believe he's that good, So when they top block Stephen Curry and don't allow him to get off, there's no way in hell the Houston Rockets would think that Stephen Curry could score 17 points in the game and they would lose. But that happened because the Warriors are executing just a little bit better. The Houston could be up 3-1 as opposed to being down. They could be up 3-2 as opposed to being down 3-2. Now, again, this goes why you have to play your best players. Against a zone, one of the best ways you beat a zone is by increasing your pace, and you don't let the zone set because you're running up and down the court. The Warriors can't do that because their players are older. They're tired, which is why you have to play a multitude of players to get layups. One thing about Jonathan Kuminga is he is able to get runs and get layups. You don't have to know the offense to run in front of your guy and finish on the break. So those little nuances, I believe, is what will get the Warriors over the top. Ime Udoka is executing his game plan to perfection. And if Brandon Podziemski is the guy who's taking most of the shots, Houston feels pretty good that they're going to win.
Larry, Wainster drops $9.99 in the chat saying that the big three, he thinks, planned this all along. And I think the inference here is that, you don't push hard in Game 5. You save your energy. If you get blown out, just like in 2022, other people have mentioned, they get their asses kicked in Game 5. You set it up for a win Game 6 at home. Wainster adds that the Rockets got false hope for 2 days, and then you go to Chase Center and beat the piss out of them. Risky strategy if that's true, because if it backfires, you have a Game 7 in Houston. You're an older team with no more extra days off. This is sketchy as all hell, Larry. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's an interesting series. One, because the Rockets are the 2 seed and the Warriors are the 7, and yet the Warriors really from Game 1, the expectations are it's their series. So that's kind of odd, don't you think? That the 7 seed is like in this game, who's got the pressure on them? Well, it should be on the Rockets. They're the 2 seed, and they're facing elimination. But it feels like the pressure's on Golden State, does it not? They're going home for Game 6 as the 7 seed, and yet if they don't get it done, it could be, thanks for coming, and yet they may lose to the 2 seed. But even though the Warriors are the 7, it kind of feels like the pressure is more on them than Houston. That's my sense of it. Like right now, if the Warriors lost this series, there'd be an awful lot of people going, what the heck happened? Where they're the 7 seed going against the 2, right? On paper,
it doesn't feel like it at all.
On paper, the Rockets should have all the pressure on them, but it doesn't feel that way, does it?
At all. And I think the Jimmy Butler trade is the single biggest reason why. He didn't do much tonight. His box score for the evening, Jimmy Butler played 25 minutes, 21 seconds. His worst game of the series, in my opinion. 8 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 0 of 3 from deep, 2 of 10 from the field. That is not good at all.
Big 3 got outplayed by Fred VanVleet for the most part.
Yeah, that's rough. And then Brandon Podziemski played. What are you guys' thoughts on him? 20 minutes, 54 seconds, 8 points in this game. And I know he didn't play a lot, so the sample size is small, but clearly they need him. Who wants to take on Brandon Podziemski on the night? Any thoughts from anyone?
He was minus 24, on the night. he's a key guy for Golden State. There's no question. He's got to hit some shots. That you're totally right to be concerned about the offense because they have offensive issues.
Yes.
And not playing Kuminga it just exacerbates their offensive issues. So I think that would be my concern as well, is where the point's going to come from. Would you think of Knox tonight? Would you consider busting him out in some non-garbage time?
I would. I mean, he knows
was the leading scorer for Santa Cruz, was he not?
He balled out in Santa Cruz. He's been with the Warriors organization since last summer. He knows the
lottery pick.
He was once upon a time a lottery pick. Yes. Was it Clippers or Knicks? One or the other. I can't remember. And he's bounced around. No, 100%. The only Kevin Knox would actually be getting a run, I think, right now if he took advantage of his opportunities when he got promoted late in the season. The Warriors finally had some space to call him up. He was not eligible to be a two-way player, so they had to free room with the salary cap, and the Jimmy Butler trade did just that. But he didn't really seize the opportunity, unfortunately. He didn't force the coaching staff's hand to make them have a difficult decision. Every time he played, it was kind of like, meh, so. But with all that said, I mean, he gives you size. He's 6'8". He spaces the floor. I mean, he's a good player. I would not hate that. Frank, I'm guessing, would know him better than me, though.
Well, no, he's a talented guy. He played in Kentucky, first round lottery pick. I think his concentration in the past has kind of befuddled coaches, which has kind of got him on the outside. But when you look at his talent as it is, he's a talented guy. My one thing about Kerr, and on Friday night, I believe the starters can get the Warriors home, right? But you got to play other players with maximum intensity, because they got down 16 in the first quarter because they were tired. They were trying to run some bullshit half-court offense, and Houston was like, no, we're going to get in you. So you got to pick up the pace and then allow your veterans to drive you home, because forget about the records. This series is so razor-thin tight in terms of personnel. And how Houston has been able to rally is by getting their veteran to make some shots, Van Vliet, and playing hard as hell with everybody who else steps on the floor. The Warriors did not match their intensity tonight because they were playing their starters at the beginning, and when they came off the bench, there was no burst. They got to get a burst with more intensity, more pace, and more speed and more intensity. The fourth quarter, they did it. They need to do it in the first quarter.
The Warriors have been outscored in this series, if you can believe this, by 6 points, despite having a 3-2 series lead.
Yeah, it's tough.
Who's won? I'd like to know who's won more quarters.
I will get back to you on that. Give me a second, and I'll look that up. But in the meantime, that's a good question. In the meantime,
the Warriors only won one tonight.
Yeah, something tells me the Houston Rockets have the edge in that as well. Sanders Rux, $5, saying at this point, start the bench players. They play better than the starters. Hey, look, that's not going to happen in reality. I get the sentiment. But when you look at the box score tonight, the starters did just play like absolute shit. Stephen Curry had 13 points. The only starter who scored in double figures, Moses Moody, led all scorers tonight with 25 points. Kevin Knox, second on the team in scoring tonight with 14 points. And again, a lot of that coming in that the third and fourth quarter run for the bench players coming in and just really just school it. It forced Houston to bring their starters back. Like the Rockets literally benched their starters, I think about 2/3 of the way through the third quarter, and we're done. And they had to come back. I don't think that I loved seeing that. Side note, but Dan, I don't know how much you've talked about the bench tonight. What was your take on their performance overall? Because they played fantastic to me, and I think to Sanders as well.
You muted, Dan.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
why'd you tell him? You shouldn't have. I was hoping he'd get into a really long point of silence.
My bad.
I was.
And then we could. That's part. I mean, that's almost worthy of being muted. Almost. I mean, not. I mean, we'll overlook it this time.
Hey, I thought my.
Look at that.
Oh, did you tell me to unmute? I'm sorry. Okay,
look at that.
Sorry.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
I'm sorry, Dan. That was my fault. My fault. Okay, you're
still
good.
muted.
Go ahead. My fault.
Right.
My apologies.
Go ahead.
I heard Larry
my
say
favorite.
mute him. My brain just went right to mute, and I just.
My
sorry.
favorite part of the night was Spencer headbutting Sagoon and then EJD pushing him in the chest.
The 2-hand shiver on
Yeah.
Sengun.
Yeah,
Sengun
you know
looked
what?
like, how dare you push me? It's like, bro, you're he's gonna push you again because he knows if you fight back, you're done.
Yeah.
We got Rye Smith
I
in the
love it.
house, by the way.
Look at
Good to
that.
see you, buddy.
But that was all on Key. It was his fault for missing what you call a CYO layup.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was just like nobody
He
was
knew it
on
too.
him.
He knew it
I was
too.
just like,
yeah,
how do you miss that by that much?
yeah, he
didn't
knew
even-
that too right away.
He was just like, wow. I mean, dude, dunk it. You had time to do a 360 dunk standing there. It was
Yeah,
like
that was
nobody
bad.
did. But anyway,
That was bad.
that would have brought that would have been interesting because that would have brought the game down to 11. And there was still like 5 minutes to go, 4 or 5 minutes left.
I mean, not to interrupt you, but let me just say one thing I didn't like tonight. I don't like teams that enter into games trying to do more than just win the game. And that's what the Warriors entered into tonight. They were very cognizant of their energy expenditure, blah, 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 blah. They better come out for blood on Friday and play like it's a game 7, or they're going to let this thing get away from them.
Oh, I think
They
they will.
came
Larry.
out today with this like, well, we don't want to lose and expend a lot of energy, so we'll settle for a bunch of bad looks early, and then when we fall behind, we'll pull the ripcord and get out of here. They better bring it in game 6 like it's game 7, or this thing could get away from them.
I'm doing math right now on the quarter thing, and I've done research through 3 games, and they're tied so far. I got 2 more games to look up here, Larry, in terms of how many quarters each team has won. Through games 1 through 3, each team won 6 quarters apiece. Ryan, good to see you, brother. How you doing, man? And while I'm going to squeeze in a paid chat here, Ryan, real fast to lead into, Michael dropping $5 saying, play more Kevin Knox. He looked good on the glass and can match some of Amen Thompson's athleticism. So can Jonathan Kuminga. But good to see you, Ryan. How are you doing? And what was your reaction to the game tonight?
I mean, that sucked. Obviously, I was hoping that they could come out and just like step on their throats and get a bunch of rest because that's what this team desperately needs. You know, in my mind,
You bet the Rockets.
No, I actually didn't. All
right.
I probably will bet them Friday just for the emotional hedge because honestly, I can't handle a game 7. But it felt like this game was going to go one of 2 ways. Usually, the team in this situation, down 3-1, either rolls over and just lets this thing end, or they come out and everyone has magnet balls and they're flying around, and the refs are kind of, calling fouls a little one-sided, which I mean, I don't think the refs like decided this game at all, but the game was over basically at the end of the first quarter. It was definitely over by half. What was interesting, I thought, at halftime was the Rockets only had 1 offensive rebound in the first half. And they still were beating them that badly, which is pretty crazy.
Well, you know why, Ryan? Because they weren't missing any shots.
Yeah.
That's
bringing him in.
That's a good call.
Which is not, it sucks that that's the reason, but yeah.
Well, like at halftime, they were shooting like, 67% from the
69%.
field.
69%. Yeah.
Really? And like 65 from 3. And they had a zillion free throws and they were actually making them. Ultimately, the thing I'm most concerned about coming away from this game is it's Steph and Jimmy. Ultimately, we can talk as much as we want about the margins of this team and all the little things they can do. This is now 2 games in a row where Steph has looked dog tired. His legs have looked completely cooked. I don't know if you guys have talked about the way his thumb looked.
We have not.
But did you guys see that? Okay, on Twitter, his thumb looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger's bicep. Like it looks bad. It looks a lot worse than you'd once think.
And more specifically, it's like just to provide some context, it's the thumb knuckle. It's like this weird, like I'm double jointed on this thumb. I don't know if you can see that. But it's like right that part of it right there. and it's swollen, like Brian said, like a golf ball. No, more like a golf ball, like a tennis ball. It's huge.
And like
on his non-shooting hand.
No, it's on his shooting hand.
That's why he's turning the ball over, because he can't dribble well with the right hand.
Can't. It's the dribble. The thing that it's affecting the most is his dribbling and his passing. So when he's constantly getting blitzed and all this stuff, he is. I mean, he's turning the ball over like crazy in pretty brutal fashion. I also think it's affecting his finishing when he gets in the lane. Not as much, strangely enough, not as much as shooting. He's got the shooting down, but it's all those little things. And then Butler, I mean, we didn't do a post game after Sunday's game, or what was that? Was that Monday's game? Butler in the first half, he had like 2 or 4 points. There was that play where like he was chasing down Dylan Brooks and fouled him. And like you can watch him on that play. He is sprinting full speed and he's maybe going 65%. Like it looks bad. And he's just he already was reluctant to shoot jumpers. He's completely reluctant to shoot jumpers. He just wants to play that kind of connector role right now. And obviously, I think we all believe in him to like turn it on when it matters most. He'll have it turned on this Friday. I think Steph will. But ultimately, I mean, I think we all kind of assume the Wolves are going to win that series. The Wolves are kind of like the Rockets, except for they actually have pretty awesome offense.
Well, they have Anthony Edwards. Like the Rockets don't have an Anthony Edwards. Like they have an offensive machine. You're right.
And they have a ton of shooters, and they can do all the same stuff on Steph. And the only way I feel like the Warriors are going to be able to compete is to get this series at least done on Friday. I think if they get to 7 and it goes, I think it's over. I think even if they beat them in 7, I think the Rockets will have taken too much skin off of the Warriors.
You don't want you agree. And real Wainster in the chat bringing up Game 6, saying we're being too tough on these Dubs. He's being facetious, saying, "Do we really think they're $5 million players?" Wait, they are. Get your asses moving, Dubs, and close things out in Game 6. Draymond Green after the game. Let's hear from him because he actually was asked about Stephen Curry's thumb. That you just broke down beautifully there. Thank you, Ryan. And he was asked, like, what's going on there? Is that an issue? Did you notice the Rockets like constantly swiping at it? And here is Draymond Green.
Draymond, Steve mentioned he noticed that defenders, when they're closing out, they're trying to like almost hit Steph's thumb as he's shooting. Have you noticed that, or how much have you seen that, especially in these playoffs?
Yeah, I noticed it. I think it's pretty obvious, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Do you think the league should crack down on it at all?
I'm not one to come to cry to you about what the league should do. I see enough people cry about me, and I lose respect for those people when they cry about me. So I would not allow somebody to lose respect for me over that. It's all good.
I like that. He avoided like making excuses for the way Steph's being treated. Larry, what'd you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's weak to make excuses. So yeah, I'm glad that he didn't. Me too. I mean, it's and the bottom line is, it's like, why you're going to have plenty of opportunities here in Game 6 to get it right. So it's like, I wouldn't be saying too many things. I'd be keeping my comments to a minimum. I did think it was interesting though that Kerr was, kind of asked about, the game tonight. And I thought he had some couple interesting things to say. One of the things I thought that Kerr said that was interesting is that he's, trying to blame himself. I didn't have them ready to play clearly and this and that. I don't think it's that they weren't ready to play. I just think overall he's trying to do this without one of his main guys. And I don't think it's possible. He also said he had a halftime conversation with Draymond, and that they decided that they were going to give the starters 5 minutes to make a run, and if they didn't, they were going to pull the plug. So
let's hear that soundbite. It's not going to be as good as
it's from Slater.
The last one. I'm not muted.
Slater has it out on Twitter right now.
Yeah, this is courtesy of Anthony Slater. The last soundbite was courtesy of the radio station you're on Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. KNBR 680 104.5, digitally streaming everywhere. So KNBR, thank you for that. They provide a good sound bites because they actually plug their system into the mixer and we can hear what they say. Anthony Slater does this on his phone. So I advise everyone to turn the volume up on your devices. And here is courtesy of Anthony Slater, Steve Kerr talking, basically just we're repeating what Larry said. He said, "Here's Steve Kerr."
How much of that from your side tonight do you think was kind of maybe lack of urgency, lack of desperation, considering the circumstances?
Yeah, I didn't have him ready to play. Clearly, we committed 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game, and I think they were 13 for 13 from the line after the first quarter. So we can't come out with that lack of defensive focus and energy and expect to beat a great team on their own floor in a closeout game. So they took it to us. They were awesome tonight, and we got to be better.
What was the conversation at half? And I mean, did you know you were probably going to pull the plug pretty quick?
Yeah, I wasn't going to chase, this game, obviously, with Game 6 coming up in 48 hours. So I talked to Draymond. I said, "What do you think?" He said, 5 minutes. And so we gave the starting group the first 5 or 6 minutes. And we kind of had, unless we had made a huge run, kind of had it in mind that we would pull the plug.
Was there any temptation though when you guys got?
And that's Steve Kerr. So Larry, you eloquently summarized and paraphrased what Kerr said. Anyone have any reactions to those comments?
I think he went into it playing chess, thinking that, listen, we're going to go down there. If the unexpected happens and Emi Udoka doesn't have his team to play and they just fall on their asses, then yeah, we'll take Game 5. But the expectation is we're not going to get our veteran guys hurt. We have some wiggle room. We'll check the temperature and we'll move all our chips to the center, of the table. I don't gamble. I don't know what I'm talking about. But we'll move all our chips forward, and we got to get it done on Friday night because we know Game 7 is something that they don't want to do.
By the way, speaking of gambling, Frank, I'm glad you brought that up. In respect for having the discipline to refrain from doing what's incredibly fun. You are missing out, but I also respect it. There's actually Larry and Ryan, Dan. I don't know if you guys gamble, but Larry and I were both degenerates of the highest quality, and I didn't realize this, Larry, and anyone else who gambles, that they now have peer-to-peer sports bookies, which basically means like there's apps and websites. I downloaded one tonight. I haven't tried it yet, but I don't know if you guys have heard about this. The one I downloaded was called Profit Sports, and it's basically you can be the bookie yourself. You can go on these exchanges and set lines yourself, and then you owe people money if they win. But the point is, like, at the moment, at least, and something tells me they're going to send lawsuit to ban this soon, but at this point in time, on April 30th at 8:10 p.m. Pacific time, you can gamble peer-to-peer. Larry, did you know about that? Any reaction?
No, I didn't know about that. I'm not even 100% sure what that means. You mean you're saying that you can gamble against somebody?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so you could basically go on the app, and so tonight, for example, the Rockets were favored by 4, but you can peruse all the different bookies and see if someone's offering you something maybe a little more favorable, right? Like maybe someone has a Houston -6, and now you want to bet Warriors +6. It's literally a marketplace for gambling. I did not think we'd get to this point, yet here we are in 2025.
How do you collect?
The other person will owe you if you win. So I think if you take the role of the bookie, you have to put enough money in there so people can win from you, and then you just collect from that person. Isn't that crazy? I love it. I can't wait to experiment and try this out. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. Warriors game
sponsored by Gamblers Anonymous.
It's brought to you by. I'm glad you brought that up. Tonight's episode brought to you by MyBookie. Perfect timing for that. Thank you, Dan, for leading me into that. It's crunch time on the court, and the NBA playoffs are your chance to score big, whether you're riding with favorites or cheering for the underdog. Every three-pointer, dunk, and buzzer beater is an opportunity to win at MyBookie. Use the promo code MM50, M as in Mary, 50, to get a 50% deposit or 50% bonus on your deposit. Put down 100, they'll give you 50, and so forth. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. And Larry, we have not had a chance to hear your sponsors tonight. Fire away, sir. Picking the pickle, I'm guessing, first up?
Yeah, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And we're brought to you by Mancini Sleep World as well. We're also brought to you by Claudaddy Arcades and LearnKey Upskill Academy, and the links are in the description for all of our sponsors.
And don't forget to get the brisket. Get the brisket and tell them
Craig sent you.
Larry sent you. Tell Damon and Mary.
Larry, you skimmed over that Mancini's one. Are you wrapping that client up? Is that why you went through?
No, not at all. We're brought to you by Mancini's, and you get 10% off at Mancini's if you use the code Krug10, and you'll get 10% off at Mancini's.
There you go. Because that's a hell of a deal, and I thought people should know
It's a
that.
good deal.
Unless you're getting ready to, end your contract, and then you mail it in at that point. Who cares? But yeah, Krug10 is the promo code. I want to highlight this chat real fast here, if I could find it. This was another paid chat, and it leads to Game 6. NBA Elias dropped $4.99 to write, "Forget this year. They think it's over. What are the odds that the Warriors land Giannis Antetokounmpo next year? I think he wants to play with LeBron and Luka in LA. I know he wants to play with Steph. It's also a weird topic to bring up now, but you dropped $4.99, so let's do it." Larry,
can't happen in LA. They don't have the numbers.
I don't think it's going to happen. What are the Warriors? I don't think the Warriors are going to do it. I think the Warriors are going to move Kuminga. They're going to add some pieces, but they don't have the pieces to add Giannis. I don't think.
Actually, what if you could trade Kuminga and a couple other pieces and like 3 first-rounders for
what pieces?
Giannis.
Probably Butler.
Well, no, Butler would be by himself.
I wouldn't want to, but you got to make the contracts match in this new NBA.
Yeah, but you can do Kuminga and a few other guys, because Kuminga, they could do a sign and trade and he could get like 35, 40, and you just need another 15, 20 million.
Here's the thing, Dan, you're right. And just to add to that, because I've looked into this a little bit already. This is going to be a talking point. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I thought he should have left last year. I mean, the writing was on the wall. The Bucks weren't going to do jack shit, and now Dame Lillard's out for all of next year with what I call a tragedy, a torn Achilles. That's just rough. I don't wish that on anybody outside of my absolute worst enemies. And so Giannis will probably want to go somewhere else if he wants to stay in a winning championship contending culture. And Dan's right. You could do a sign and trade with Kuminga. And I forgot what the max amount he can sign for. I think it's like 35, close to 40 million a year. Moses Moody is going to make 13 million next year. Then you add Brandon Pajemski's contract which I think is like 5 or 6 million. You can get there. Now here's the downside to forming what I think would be an unbelievable foursome. We're talking Steph, Draymond, Giannis, Jimmy Butler, right? I mean, that's a contender. It's old. You're old as F, but it's a contender. But your second apron, which means you can't use the mid-level exception, and all you can do to fill out all the other roster pieces are vet minimums. Like, that's all you can do. You can probably keep maybe like Quinn Post. You could probably keep Guy Santos. You can probably keep. So you can keep like little fringe rotational players like that.
Knox. But you keep Knox. Yeah,
like Kevin Knox, Braxton Key, Pat Spencer. So you'd have to surround those four with a lot of veteran minimums and the pieces you have now. But knowing that it is a possibility, anybody want to take that? I mean, it's interesting.
I mean, here's the thing. If you could trade for him and keep Jimmy Butler, then that makes a lot of sense to me. But including Jimmy Butler into a trade, Jimmy Butler's not going anywhere that he doesn't want to go to. The last thing you want is Jimmy Butler ravaging your city because he doesn't want to be there. You don't want that. When I look at Giannis, I think Houston is a destination because they have the young players. They have the kid from Auburn who looks pretty darn good. They have Reed Shepherd.
I'll be right back.
So they have, and plus they got picks. Houston has picks also. So
million.
I see a team like that as a possible destination.
So who you're talking about?
Maybe.
You're talking about. So basically, you would trade Cam Whitmore.
No,
I don't think the Rockets are going to trade Amon Thompson. I really do believe, even for Giannis, he's untouchable. Would you agree?
The kid from Auburn. 6'10".
Jabari Smith.
Right?
Jabari Smith.
I think Jabari Smith would be gone.
Jabari. Yeah.
Reed Shepard would be gone.
Jalen Green.
Those are good players.
But you got to come up with
players.
$50 million, over $50 million in salary.
Well,
You know how you do it, Dan? Fred VanVleet has
that's right.
I can't remember if it's a team
35,
option or
40.
player option, but it's for almost $50 million. I
That's
think
right.
he's almost
He's up
certainly
there.
going to exercise that because he's
They're
never going to
gonna
get a
keep him,
contract
though.
like that again.
I think they
And that's how
keep
you
him.
make it work. Yeah.
I think they would keep him. But I think there's some guys that you could overpay, sign and trade, third team. They could get it done because they have the right mix of young players that I think Milwaukee would be interested in.
The problem is that Milwaukee is not, they can't just bottom out. They can't do the thing where they trade Giannis and just say, screw it, we're rebuilding, we're going for the future. Because they don't own any of their picks. The Pelicans have the right to pick swap with them in 2026, 2027, and then Portland has the option to pick swap with them in 2028 and 2030.
Yeah.
So
they're screwed.
So they would need picks back. Plus, they would need a team.
3.
They have no incentive to be tanking. So they are going to want at least good enough players to where they can kind of just subsist in that middle of the road, maybe try and develop some young guys type of vibe. It's going to be bleak.
Waynster in the chat dropping another $5.99. Thank you, sir. Saying in his Humboldt opinion, playoff words, meaning humble, visit Humboldt.com. Krug and company have a better chance of getting tier 1 access than Kuminga has of getting on the court. But with all that said, a good robust discussion. And this leads to a question I'd love to hear answers from you folks on, which is what happens? I'm going to go there, okay, just for a second. Please forgive me. But this is a dark path I'm going to go down here. What if the Warriors lose game 6 and 7? And what if they lose while Kuminga is getting treated the same way? Moody's coming off the bench again. Basically, Kerr is just rolling with the small ball favorites of his, and they lose this series. I believe if that happens, Kerr could seriously lose his job. What are your folks' thoughts? I'll go in order. Dan, start with you.
Wow. That's tough because I don't know. I would like to say that makes it makes sense, and that I could see that happening in a world where Steph's not involved. If Steph says, "Hey, I want to play with Coach Kerr," they're not going to fire him. So
even though Steph's turning 38 next year, you still think he has that pull where he could single-handedly save the job?
Yeah.
Okay. Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with Dan. I think Kerr would be in hot water because their owner actually knows basketball, and he's seeing the same thing that we're seeing. He's seeing a young, talented Kuminga not even getting off the bench. And he's saying, what the freak is going on? As long as the Warriors keep winning, he can bite his tongue. But I think there would be some pressure on Kerr, but at the end of the day, I think Stephen Curry is the one who would determine whether or not to go, okay, I'm not going to get involved, or I want to play for Coach Kerr. But I think that
Ryan, I'm going to ask you in just 1 second your thoughts here, but I want to play these a couple of things in the chat real quickly because it's worth adding to the discussion. G brings up what I was going to bring up, which is that they did fire one of his favorites before. Mark Jackson was a favorite of Stephen Curry's, and they still moved on. And as Frank said, they do have an owner who at least has some semblance of knowledge when it comes to basketball. He's not like Vivek in Sacramento who has no effing clue yet pretends he does. Lacob has some semblance of knowledge about the Warriors.
Steph was only an angel back then. He's God now, though.
So that's what I'm saying. So you think times have changed, and then I always love hearing this crap. This is the ATX7 bringing up the 4 titles dummy. To which I say, well, are you going to pretend Jordan Bell is a champion because he won 1 championship? Look, anybody who sits here and pulls this, Steve Kerr got 4 titles, bro. Joe Lacob does not see it that way. Joe Lacob is very aware that 2 of those 4 titles came when Kevin Durant was on that team. Anybody could have won championships. It is one of the most disingenuous arguments ever, pretending that a clipboard holder is responsible for 4 championships. I give him credit for the first one. I do admit fully that he made a difference between what Mark Jackson was doing and then what he did himself. But to sit here and pretend that Kevin Durant and that stacked ass team, Steve Kerr, had anything to do with that, yeah, you might as well give Quinn Cook credit for being a champion at that point as well, because he had as much of a role, or maybe a slightly less than Steve Kerr. But I digress. Ryan, with all that said, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. No, I think there's no chance he gets fired. I think he's safe as long as Steph is there, and Draymond. I think both those guys are safe. Yeah, I just don't. I think they're going to just completely line it up that way. I don't think Kerr probably has any interest in coaching a bunch of young players, once those guys are gone. I think that's time for a complete blow up. But what you're saying basically is like, you kind of think is there a little bit of like Robert Kraft in Lacob? I don't know Lacob's, like, I know his personality. I know that he's like cocky, that he, whatever, light years ahead and all that stuff. But like, do you think that there's a little Robert Kraft in there, that he kind of feels like he played just as much of a role as Kerr did, and that he could, that sort of thing?
Well, Bill Belichick should be all the lesson you need, that you do not ride and die with your coach. It's the player.
Yeah, but Brady was gone.
Well, I mean, if Kerr gets a 24-year-old, starts bringing a 24-year-old, maybe girl that he found on the internet, and she starts getting involved in communications in the front office of the Warriors.
Why you got to hate on Belichick?
I don't think that's hate on Belichick, is it? I mean, every Boston fan I hear from says that they're worried about.
Why are you guys
Belichick.
jealous about Belichick?
I'm jealous.
I'm hearing talk that they're worried about him, that he's being manipulated by this young woman who has been wrapped around the finger, apparently. Larry, I asked the crew this, and I'd love to get your reaction. What do you think happens if the Warriors lose these next 2 games? Like, what happens if they lose game 6 and 7 and Kerr sticks with this formula? Like, I think there is a legitimate chance Kerr's out if that happens. I really do. But the panel here thinks that Kerr is safe as long as Stephen Curry is there. I don't know if that's true. What do you think?
Won't help their radio station. I don't think. Definitely won't help their radio station. As far as what happens, I mean, if they lose,
well, what if they lose?
I predicted them to lose, so that would be the 2 seed beating the 7 seed.
And then what happens? What happens next?
I think nothing. I mean, they're
going to keep pretending Steve Kerr's not a problem.
Yeah,
you think that's what's going to happen? Like, they're going to pretend this isn't a.
They had no direction, concrete direction, and then they chose their direction at the trade deadline. They traded for Jimmy Butler. They signed him to an extension. He's the guy. That's a 2-year window, and this was year 1. So they'll run it back next year as the second year. Throws 2.
There's next year and the year after that, which is a huge reason
is
why.
I thought it was just 2 years.
2 years.
Jimmy Butler signed a 2-year extension, so that starts next season.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's what they've made their bed. They're in the Jimmy Butler business for the next 2 years. This is their direction. This is the direction they're going to take. They're not going to audible off this direction. This is going to be their direction.
I'm not disputing that, but what about the coaching part of it? Like, do they stick with
Kerr's part of that? He's going to be here next year, I would say, for sure.
I think it's more likely that it's actually more of an acquiescence to Kerr. And I think that maybe there's some more that they were going to say, okay, well, the Kuminga thing, didn't work out, so let's trade him. We're done. We need to lean into a lane, and we're going to trade Kuminga, and maybe they will make some more dramatic roster decisions. I mean, I know there's been a lot of fanfic out there about like, ooh, maybe the Warriors could sign Steven Adams. I think they do need a big.
I responded to that with? How do you know Kerr's going to play him? Like that's why Kerr is such a miserable coach to follow, because you can't even have fun pretending playing around with free agents, because then you have to deal with the coaching factor. It drove Bob Myers out. That's how frustrating it is to have this man as a head coach. He only plays who he thinks perfectly fits in his weird little subjective vision of what works and what doesn't.
You really think that's what drove? You think that's Kerr? I think it was Lacob that the pressure of Lacob.
I think it was
that
Lacob
Myers-
too that drove Myers out. You think it was Kerr?
Oh, what did
They're
Lacob
tight.
do? I mean, look, Lacob is undoubtedly annoying.
Calling
He
him
probably
like
calls-
17 times a day.
Yeah, that part's probably
What did
annoying.
Lacob
but-
do? He was Lacob.
But when Myers was publicly saying, "What's the point in looking into adding a big at the buyout deadline because you don't know if your coach is going to play him," and then he bounces right after that, and not to mention, like, there are not only my reports, other reports from individuals, including Ramona Shelburne, who confirm that behind the scenes there was friction. Do you? I don't know if you folks remember that dinner that was infamously reported when Steve Kerr and Bob Myers went to this dinner in New York City to talk about the very vision that they were clearly separated on, and then Myers bounced. I don't doubt that Joe Lacob is a lot. It probably gets old hearing from him like 10, 20 times a day. But I don't see how it's fun to have to be a GM for a team whose coach has all the power and is oftentimes suppressing every idea you have, or just telling you outright, no, I don't like it. But Joe Lacob did say something, which is, I think, why I'm holding out hope that if this collapses, they'll make a change. Joe Lacob was very displeased with the way James Wiseman was handled. He publicly said that he wonders if the lack of playing time and the minutes and the lack of opportunities played a huge part in them having to move on from him and trading him out for GP2. He also loves Kuminga. I don't know if there is a love affair between Joe Lacob and Steve Kerr. That's the part I don't think anyone really knows for certain outside of those two. But if you're sitting here telling me that Steve Kerr is safe no matter what for 2 more years, that disappoints me. That basically tells me if the Warriors get bounced in this series, you're effed for 2 more years. You have no hope at all. That's what I see out of this.
I think Bob Myers, like a lot of very good executives, I think the thing that drove him out was just he could hear that the music was about to stop. I think that the Draymond punch with Poole was a huge factor. I think, he got his 2020. They got the 2022 championship. I think he just realized, like, this is not necessarily going to end well. I'm sure he probably was under a ton of stress. He was in a super high profile, high stress position for a really long time. And he clearly made the right decision, right? He got out at the exact right time.
$2 chats here. O'Shea Barton writes, Stephen Curry cannot save Steve Kerr's job. And then Curry's gone. I think he meant Kerr. Wayne Sir 299 saying, Dub Nation, we are good. The big three will not allow this
Go back to that last one, because I think it's different. The one that's Curry, I think what he was saying, if Curry can't save Kerr's job, Curry would be gone too.
Oh, I don't know.
That's what I think he's saying.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? O'Shea Barton, follow up, please, if you don't mind. Coast to coast.
If I could just add one comment there.
Please.
I don't think Curry's going to be gone, and I don't think Kerr's going to be gone. All right, continue on. Go ahead.
Thank you for the insights there.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to level the Chase Center. Curry will not be dumped, and Kerr will not leave in a bad situation. I'm going to hang with those three. The arena will stay built,
I bet on that.
The superstar player is not going to be going away, and Kerr's not going to be fired.
Coast to coast dropping $4.99 saying, if a coach can't develop young talent, he needs to be what I've always said he needs to be. Go be a shrink. James Wiseman, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Jonathan Kuminga. You forgot Jordan Poole. You forgot. They're the only success.
Because Wiseman and PBJ have been awesome since they left, right?
Well, in PBJ's defense, he's still playing. He's actually still playing, which is kind of crazy.
He should still be playing. He's 24 years old.
And he's 6'10", who can shoot the three. Yeah, he's with the Clippers now. Curious to see what happens there. Ryan Rollins is still playing.
He's on the Bucks,
the track
right?
record of draft picks in the Steve Kerr era, like Kevon Looney is still with the team, and he made it, I guess. And I think that's about it.
No, you just don't understand. You got to give Smilagic and Justinian Jessup a little bit more time. They just need more time.
And Nico Mannion. Don't forget Nico Mannion.
Nico Mannion.
He also needs some more time as well. Yeah, the poor man's Brandon Pajemski. Yes. But coast to coast, I agree. The failure to develop is where my primary issue is with him. Anyway, so let's hope it doesn't get to that scenario. Is there any other topics we should touch on? I feel like we've covered everything unless
I think you want to root for the Lakers tonight, and they're down 10 at halftime. If the Minnesota wraps this up tonight, Warriors tough, because if they win Friday night, I think they would play game 1 Sunday in Minnesota, possibly. I don't know if the NBA set that yet, but I could see that happening.
I agree as well. And by the way, not a game 90. I'm so glad you brought this up. And this really is a huge reason why I question Steve Kerr. He is single-handedly the reason why the Warriors don't have Anthony Edwards right now. I just want some goddamn accountability. That's it. I literally wrote a story and I started a Substack. Here's the handle right there, dogwild.substack.com. The handle is dogwild. I wrote a whole story about the last 6 years of Steve Kerr, which has been night and day different than the first 5 years, right? And the Anthony Edwards part of this, I just want accountability for this guy. He has made so many blunders in the last 6 years and has no accountability because people like to bring up 4 championships. Never mind the fact that, again, any coach could have won with that Kevin Durant team. So let's say for the sake of argument, he's won 2. You want to give him credit for 2. Great. But that doesn't save jobs in this day and age. Mike Malone just got blown out. It's frustrating to me, man. It's frustrating. I don't know what to say. Just
where's Malone going? Is he where's he going next?
I have no idea. He might maybe the Warriors.
I think he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, here's a little nugget, and you probably know this, Larry. Michael Malone was Mark Jackson's assistant.
Right.
He was his.
That's right.
He was
right.
Speaking of that, you guys, who were the assistants in the playoffs in 20 when they played the Clippers that year and went 7? They had the mishap, the internal whatever was blew up, and they fired a couple of coaches. Mark Jackson. There was a couple of assistants that got let go.
Brian Scalabrine.
Who was it?
Brian Scalabrine.
And who else? Who was the other one?
There's another little guy who was on.
Okay. It was
It was the guy that.
Ratted on him.
Yeah, and it was. Who was that guy?
He's on the Clippers now, I think. I think not. Maybe Milwaukee. He's still in the league.
It was like a 5'5" guy. There was a 5'5" little guy who got cut.
Yeah, he's still in the league.
Remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember.
Isaiah Thompson?
No, for the Warriors. For the Warriors. The Warriors.
Boykins?
No.
You're talking about the coach, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the coach.
Eric Musselman.
No.
It wasn't Musselman. This guy was filming.
The guy
allegedly he was filming.
Yeah, remember the small guy who got in trouble for filming?
Keith Jennings?
No. He got the coach. And he went
coach.
His most prominent job was with the Pelicans. He was with the Pelicans for probably 3 or 4 years.
Let's see if the chat nails it. I don't know. Either.
You guys can't remember this guy? I can remember this guy.
Why do you bring him up? What's the point?
Dan asked who was on the staff for Michael Malone when Mark Jackson was a coach.
Dan drove us down this random road.
Darren Erman?
Yes.
Darren Erman. Thank you.
Just looked it up. Yep, Darren Erman. There it is. And Brian,
what happened to that guy? That's a random.
He's in the league now.
As Ratty would say, that's good knowledge.
You Googled it just before me.
What did you Google?
Good.
Who were the 2 coaches fired by Mark Jackson? Because I didn't remember who they were, but I was wondering if they became.
Scal and Erman got fired.
Yeah, I was wondering if they became big time coaches, but I guess not.
He's an assistant for the Knicks now.
Yeah. I just saw him. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, I agree with you, Dan. Going back a few minutes ago when you said that you're rooting for the Lakers. That I rarely, if ever, find myself doing that. But tonight, I am rooting for the Lakers. Just because if the Warriors have to play a game 6, you kind of want whoever their opponent is to also play game 6, right?
Who would you rather have? Would you rather take on a Laker team that's old but has stars, or would you rather take on a T-Wolf team that has some big guys? I mean, you're talking about Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle.
Easily, right?
You'd rather play the Lakers.
I would play Minnesota.
100%. Because if you say they're going to play the Lakers, that means minimum the Lakers are going 7, and they're going to have to exert all this energy. And they've got the same. I mean, they've got LeBron as an old guy. Luka is a young man in an old man's body, apparently.
Yep.
I think those guys are going to struggle with the every other day as well.
Here's the reason why I say that. Because of pace. Minnesota has great pace. They're young. They get up and down the court. And we watch the Warriors now. The Warriors look old. The Lakers are just like the Warriors. They really lean on their half-court execution, kind of soft little zone. Minnesota is on the upkeep. They really push the pace, but they don't really execute well in the half-court like the Warriors do. And the person who checks Anthony Edwards the best of anybody in the NBA in small intervals is GP2.
Interesting. So that's a good series for him. If it's a good series, excuse me, for GP2, I think it's a good series, period.
You
So
like
the argument.
Minnesota? You like them to play Minnesota, Frank?
Yes, because GP2, I watched him this year. He's the one guy who, foul line extended, he's strong enough and quick enough to cause Anthony Edwards problems in small intervals, like 4-minute segments. He couldn't check him the whole game, but he's won game for the Warriors this year.
I kind of like the idea of him playing the Lakers, like what Ryan mentioned, because Luka's kind of a cone in the playoffs on defense. You can put him
Reeves
in
is a cone.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you don't think about this, but with age, the Warriors, for them to win it, it would take at least 6. So game 5 would be travel. You want to go to LA, not Minnesota, because you're coming back. That has a lot. That trip to Minnesota, if they play 7 in Minnesota, I mean, that's a lot of travel. 5, 6, and 7. It's every other. Each other game is at the other court.
This season, to me at least, feels like the T-Wolves were going to fire in the playoffs. Like,
I bet on
this was not about the T-Wolves regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This was about last year was about the T-Wolves regular season. This year is about the T-Wolves postseason.
Good call.
And
they also have a very, they blew last year. Weren't they up 3-1 or something and lost to Denver? Were they up?
No. T-Wolves
They beat Denver.
No, who were they up 3? Weren't T-Wolves up on somebody? Or
no, they ran out of gas versus the Mavs in the conference finals.
Okay, against the
Minnesota
Mavs.
scares me, man. I Frank, I hope you're right, dude. You've given me the most comforting words about the Warriors potentially playing Minnesota in the second round, because they scare the shit out of me. So
they scared me too.
The Warriors are a much better half-court defensive team than the Lakers. The Lakers are a pathetic half-court defensive team. And JJ's trying to run zones and this and that. But, look at tonight. They're losing at home. They might win, but they're losing at home right now by 10 points to Minnesota in a game that they got to win.
Did you guys see JJ Redick kind of get upset pregame press conference? Like,
yeah.
Are you saying because I'm inexperienced that I don't talk to my assistant coaches?
Yeah, and also, like, most importantly, like, the Steph will be able to get off versus the Lakers. Like, that is no problem.
Yeah,
they're already not comfortable playing. They didn't play Vanderbilt any minutes in that last game in the second half. They don't trust him out there. Their offense is so screwed up right now that they need to have shooters out there. So Steph would be fine. I think Steph is going to just be in a world of trouble versus the T-Wolves.
What do you think? This is such a random take from Julian Bashir. JJ Redick beats his wife. Is there any truth to that? Or is he just literally pulling that out of his ass?
He's just trolling.
Okay, he's trolling. All right. Well, JJ Redick is a fascinating individual to me. Like, I don't know if you remember all those appearances he made on First Take. Like, he would take those arguments seriously. Like, you could see his face getting all like really into it.
Dude, he's a jackass. He's a total jackass. This is what he is. He called out Dog. He called him a racist. I mean, he was a train wreck. Yes. He I mean, come on, man. I mean, to me, when you start throwing that around on national television, I mean, it's time to find a new job.
It's just crazy to me. JJ Redick, he played at Duke, and he used to be a party animal. Like, I think he went. Anyways, back when I was doing the Extreme Scene, this was a show I was doing Saturday nights on KNBR, sometimes 680, mostly 1050.
I remember that show. I'm one of your fans. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and JJ Redick, I kid you not, was a guest on one of those shows, and he has nothing to do with skateboarding or surfing or any of the stuff we were talking about. But he was friends with one of my close friends who's a pro surfer, and he comes on the show and just for like 15 minutes, all we're doing is talking about frat parties and just social. The person he was and the person he is, it's wild to see someone evolve like that as an individual, because I would have never guessed he would become the head coach of the Lakers. I'll leave it at that.
You guys had a lot of cool guests on that show. I just like that.
Yeah, we did. Good. That was a long time. I think Larry was a guest on that show.
The extreme scene, man. I mean, I remember Ratty used to talk about it all the time.
He did. He came on one time.
Come on. I mean, Cyrus, you're right. It's extreme, right? I mean, come on.
I miss Guy Radnish. I miss that dude.
I mean, there's Cyrus. He's all extreme. Come on.
Larry, I love when you give me an excuse to play this clip because I love it.
Oh my God, that is funny.
Even if I don't know, it was funny to me. All right, anything else? Are we done? Are we good? Like I can't think of any other topics. I feel like we've exhausted everything.
We could talk about.
That shirt you got on, Cy, the city. I think the Giants City Connect should have taken that theme instead of that stupid clown font that they use.
I wouldn't mind hearing your guys' opinion on the big story of the NFL draft, which was Shadur Sanders being passed over to the 5th round and Stephen A. Smith going off on it. First of all, I don't know about you guys, but if somebody would just gag Stephen A. Smith, I can't listen to Stephen A. Smith. And the fact that Stephen A. Smith thinks that he wants to start transitioning to the political universe, it's like, dude, please stop, please. I mean, the ego on Stephen A. Smith, nobody thinks they're going as good as Stephen A. Smith thinks he's going. But
that's fair.
But the Shadur Sanders thing, it's like, guys, can somebody please? I know everybody kisses everybody's ass, and it's just like so ridiculous. But can somebody please, throw a little blame towards Deion Sanders for Shadur Sanders falling in the draft? I'm sorry. When you're on the record stating that you want to coach your kid, and you're Deion Sanders, you are a coach. It's not like me saying I want to coach my kid. He's a coach. Okay. Why would anybody ever draft your kid knowing that you want to coach him? Why would anybody draft any prospect knowing that some celebrity who also is a coach is going to comment on how he's developed, how he's handled, have an opinion, and then want to coach the team? So that's number one thing that Deion did to Shadur. Number two is they totally backhanded all these teams that were going to draft him by suggesting he wouldn't play for some of those teams. The teams that he didn't want to play for are the same teams that didn't draft him because he basically said he didn't want to play for them. So, I mean, it's like, instead of blaming the NFL just told you, hey, you're not that great, and you have this sense of entitlement, and you think you're better than you are, and your dad wants to coach you, and you're not that fast, and your arm's not that great, and you're not that good. So instead, it's like, no, the NFL, got together and they colluded against Shadur. No, they didn't. And all these other quarterbacks are better than Shadur.
Yeah, and that
whole conversation that he had with Cam Ward about, let's do a video together, and Cam Ward's like, I'm a football player. I want to play football. Don't you like to have fun? I have fun playing football. It's like, you know what? I think Shadur and Deion made 4 or 5 really bad decisions. Own it. Own your bad decisions. Instead, blaming other people, pointing the finger, suggesting there's all these nefarious things going on. I'm just so tired of it. You're not that good. That's what's going on. And the league just told you as much.
I wonder how much when the NFL looked at his films and saw that, Wait, he has a 74% completion record. Yeah, but he won't throw the ball away, and he'll take the sack. He'll take a ton of sacks so he doesn't throw the ball away and ruin his completion percentage, which is real good for team chemistry.
Let me say this, Larry. Everything
you get away with it when your dad's the coach.
Larry, let me say this. Everything you said is exactly true. Now, most people who watch these shows and comment don't watch football, Larry. They don't break film down.
Yeah.
They don't know any nuance. They just see the obvious. They see a guy, 74%, completion rate, popular, so on and so forth. Here's the issue that I have. Everything you said is correct, but when people do these shows, they don't want to mention that stuff because, I can't touch that. Everybody knows what's going on the inside. But let's only talk about his physical ability. And then they start breaking his physical ability down to the extent that you think he's a bum. That's bullshit, right? That's not true. He can play quarterback. He made a mess of the entire process, but no one said that except Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll was the only one who publicly came out and said, listen, we sent the guy a package in preparation for the interview, and he botched it. He's the only guy. So if you are a football novice and you're just watching this stuff on the periphery, you're saying, why is this guy drafted in the 5th round? Because the people who are talking on television, on radio, and all these other stuff, they're not giving the full story about what transpired. That's wrong. I wish there was more courage from that perspective because you're not wrong. You're right. But they don't talk about why he dropped. He dropped because he screwed the process up. They never talked about that, and that bothered me.
Yeah, I feel like if Dion is like to get any blame, it's almost like if I was Shadur, like I'd be maybe a little mad at Dion because Dion made Shadur feel like he was like Caleb Williams. Like Deion Sanders had his son believing like you're going to be a 1st-round pick at the very worst. Like Tomlin's going to take you at 21 and you're going to go to the Steelers. You will be a 1st-round pick. And he basically acted that way. Didn't go to the combine, didn't throw at his pro day, all that kind of stuff. Plus like what you're saying with like the interview with Daboll. I mean, I think a lot of teams would have drafted him maybe late 2nd, 3rd round if he came in. Because when you're drafting there, you're like, okay, maybe this guy turns into a starter. But at the very least, we'd love to draft him as a developmental backup. And it's like the job description for a backup is completely different than a starter. The job description for a backup is a guy who goes into the interviews fully prepped and ready to go and is just like a team guy. And you get him in the building, he's going to help the other dudes. But so that's kind of my take on it.
It's also much ado about nothing, to be completely honest, because the bottom line is, if he had been drafted in the 3rd round, what would he have gotten? He would, or in the 1st round even, he would have gotten more money and he would have been in somebody's camp with an opportunity to make a team. But if he played horribly, he would also be subject to being cut. Well, he doesn't have all that money now, but he's got the same opportunity that he always had. Mm-hmm. He's going to go to Cleveland. He's going to compete for that job. And if he's good enough, it's a merit. That's what I love about sports, is that sports is a meritocracy. It's a legitimate meritocracy. If he's good enough, it doesn't matter what I think or anybody else thinks, he's going to make it. If he's not good enough, it doesn't matter how much anybody talks him up. It's not going to matter. So it's the ultimate meritocracy. There's no concern. And the people that are talking endlessly about how this is like something's awful happened here, nothing's happened. He's lost some money, but nothing's happened. He's getting an opportunity. He's going to get an opportunity. If he takes advantage of that opportunity and he's good, he's going to be handsomely rewarded. And if he's great, he's going to be handsomely rewarded beyond his wildest dreams. So it's all still there for him, and nothing anybody says can change the opportunity that he has in front of him. Now it's just a matter of what does he do with that opportunity? But this whole process has cost him a lot of money. A lot of money.
Well, I would look. I don't understand why Mel Kiper Jr. has the influence he does, but I think a huge reason
He obviously
this
doesn't
game-
have much influence because he compared him to Joe Montana,
Well,
and the league said, "Screw you and your Joe Montana. He's going in the 5th round."
My point is not his influence on front offices; it's his influence on the public. And like you said, he was hyping this kid up tremendously. I don't follow football anywhere nearly as closely as you do. But when I was watching the draft, and Mel Kiper is on ESPN saying he's like the top prospect left, and that just is all that keeps showing up over and over. It starts getting in people's minds like, why is this guy getting screwed over? The explanation I heard that makes the most sense to me is that this is a guy who does have baggage, for better or worse, and the baggage is he was a starter in college. He grew up around notoriety. So maybe he has an ego, but more importantly, he has the cachet of a starter, and you don't want that for your backup. If he ends up being a backup quarterback, the last thing you want is your backup quarterback being the story, taking any attention in terms of the overall narrative. Like Brock Purdy's backup this year is going to be Mac Jones. I highly doubt there's going to be much discussion about Mac Jones unless Brock Purdy plays like shit. But unfortunately, with Sanders, I don't think it matters how good or bad the starter's playing. You're still going to hear a lot about Shadur Sanders, and teams just don't like that. And I don't know if that's Sanders' fault, but that's the reality of things. But Mel Kiper,
I think there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of truth in that. I mean, I don't know if it's right, but there's a lot of truth in that. There's an old saying: the backup quarterback should be seen and never heard.
Yes, exactly. And you're not going to get that with Shadur. You're not going to get that. And I think that was lost with the Colin Kaepernick stuff, right? Because everyone immediately is bringing up Colin Kaepernick, even though at least to me these are two completely different situations. But Kaepernick's another one. Like, he would have been a distraction no matter who signed him. I'm not sitting here defending him being blacklisted, but at the same time, it's like I could understand some teams going, do we want someone who's getting like this much attention as our backup? Like, I could understand that to a certain extent. But
I will say the opportunity meritocracy stuff you were saying, Larry, I agree with. It does suck for him though, because he landed in a lot of money. The money, but also he got drafted to a place where the path is going to be kind of brutal. I mean, he has Dylan Gabriel in front of him. He's got Kenny Pickett in front of him. He's got Joe Flacco in front of him. He's got the artist formerly known as Deshaun Watson hanging around.
Did they draft another QB ahead of him?
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
And I what it seems like to me, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that like shot of like the Browns front office room. I mean, every time there's a draft pick, they pan to these guys and they're all like, yay. And they all just look like they were horrified, which tells me, okay, Dylan Gabriel was their guy. Haslam made them pick Sanders.
Yeah.
By the way, the lead between the Lakers and T-Wolves is down to 5. So we got a good game there.
Wow.
As young.
Wait, how much time left in that game?
Good question. I don't have an answer. I think it's late third quarter. Last time I saw
7:22 left in the third.
Oh, a lot of time left in the third. Okay, so there you go. Well, how do you like? Any news on Brock Purdy before we go? I mean, is he gonna get signed? What's going on?
Oh, he's definitely gonna get signed. I mean, it's like there's a lot of speculation. Some people say it's not close. Other people say it is close. I'll tell you. I'll say this:
he's getting signed for.
Well, more, beyond the price tag, I think as far as the timeline on it, the Niners have phase 3 of OTAs in May. And I forget the exact date, but it's the first time that the whole team will be on the field together. And they have like a rookie minicamp May 8th and 9th, but then they have like they have a bigger minicamp that's not their mandatory, but they'll be on the field, the entire team. That's the deadline. That's the day he wants to be out there. He already attended the meetings, but his agent's not going to let him get on the field until the deal's signed. But I think he's going to make his agent wrap it up by the time the Niners are ready to hit because he doesn't want to hand Mac Jones the keys to the team and have him run the thing. So I really think that Brock Purdy is going to tell his agent, I want to be signed by the beginning of phase 3 of the OTAs. And my belief is when they hit the field, he'll be out there with them. This talk that it's going to run into July and training camp, I don't buy it. I think it's going to get done in the next few weeks.
You make an excellent point, Larry.
Oh,
because I think you make an excellent point because whatever he signs for, if he gets $10 million less, right? He still has millions of whatever his number was. Say it 90 million guaranteed as opposed to 100 million. And this is why agents are important. Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, when Draymond Green switched agents, right? And he was negotiating with the Warriors, there was talk that Draymond could get 100+ million. The Warriors offered Draymond, and this was the owner, right? This was Laker. Laker said, we're going to give you $100 million, right? Rich Paul got that deal done, right? Know what happened after Draymond signed that contract? He broke his wrist. He was out for the entire year. And that allowed them to draft Wiseman and some of these other cats. Brock Purdy, if he's smart, he's going to look at all of these numbers and say, you know what? What do I have in my hands right now? Do I have 90 million am I going to hold out for 100 million? Or do I have 90 million guaranteed that I can put in the bank right now? That's when agents and clients got to really be in tune to each other.
I think Brock Purdy also is aware that he's in a really good spot.
Absolutely.
He's in a good spot on a good team with a good offensive coach. But guess what? That's also a good spot for Mac Jones. So if he decides he doesn't want to play, he doesn't want to show up, and Mac Jones goes out on the field, there's a very good chance that Mac Jones is going to play the best football he's ever played for the 49ers. And then what? Yep. So if you're Brock Purdy, I would say you have a vested interest in making sure that we never find out how good Mac Jones really is.
Well, not to mention, like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm intrigued at the idea of Kyle Shanahan finally getting the QB he supposedly really wanted in that draft 2-3 years ago. I want to see Shanahan do some magic with Mac Jones. And you're right. And Larry, I wholeheartedly agree, or whoever said it, that I don't think Purdy wants to sit there and watch Mac Jones getting coached by Kyle Shanahan, because if that works out, his leverage is gone. Poof. So what do you think the number? What do you think the number is going to be, by the way? 45? Is it going to hit 50 annually?
You know, it's going to be way over 50. It's going to be way over 50.
Wow.
Yeah, way over 50.
55 is my prediction.
Okay, so to me, the Goff contract is the comparable contract. That's the contract that I think makes the most sense as far as if you're looking for a comparable, contract. And Goff signed 4 years, $212 million with $170 million guaranteed, $53 million AAV. Okay, so if you account for cost of living increases, because that was signed a while ago, that would make Purdy about $57.9 million AAV. And if it's a 3-year deal, it could be 3 years, 173. If it's a 4-year deal, it could be 4 years, 231.6, something like that. But my guess is he gets the Goff deal with cost. I would say AAV is between 57 and 58. That's
I'm hearing camp that they're asking for
average
70,
annual value.
I'm hearing he's asking for 7.
The average annual value is
Okay.
AAV. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hearing he's asking for 71 million because of the tariffs.
But they're not going to tell you how much of it is tariff, though.
25%.
But they're not going to add the tariff tax on the contract.
Incredible.
Right? They won't add that.
Right.
Going back like 45 minutes ago, by the way, O'Shea Barton was, in fact, I don't know if you folks remember the chat. I'll show it real fast here. He originally wrote, Curry can't save Steve Kerr's job. Curry is gone for sure. And we were going like, what does that mean? It clarify. He followed up and he says, yes, Stephen Curry would want to be traded to a contender if the team decides to move on from Steve Kerr.
It's funny. I looked at this one day. I looked at the entire league and I looked at what Steph's making, and I'm looking at where could, if they were going to cross this bridge of moving Steph Curry, where could he go? And, the funny thing about it is there's nowhere for him to go. really, as far as because he makes so much money, right? And it takes a certain kind of a contract. The one team that absolutely could be a fit for him is the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, because of Van Vliet.
I don't even want to think about
Because
that.
of Van Vliet, because of that Kentucky point guard, because of the big man who can shoot the ball, because of their youth and the pieces they have. If the Warriors decided they were going to move on from Steph Curry, and if Steph Curry gave the thumbs up, and if they literally did make him available and listen to offers,
the swollen thumb, or
I think they would probably, make some kind of trade. If I was moving Steph Curry, I would probably take the deal from Houston.
God, I don't want to trade him. By the way, the Warriors have won 12 quarters this series to 11 for Houston. 1 quarter, the two teams tied, going back to almost 2 hours ago.
Okay.
So I did the research in case you're curious.
So what happens if we lose the series but win the quarters? Do we get to advance?
Unfortunately, no.
No, it doesn't work that way.
No. My understanding is they'd meet about it, think about it, sleep on it, and then say no.
So it's a pretty important stat.
So this felt like a big show, man. Jesus. A big crowd, man.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Good job.
Super
Are we
chats
done? We
and all
good?
that. I love it, man.
I think we are good.
Yeah.
All right. Are we can well, I'll let you guys decide. I can do this for almost every night. So if I'm guessing the audience loved it too. We shall see. We're like a rye making it.
What's the start time Friday night?
That's a good question. I do have the schedule in front of me right here. Currently it says TBD. Let me hit the refresh. It still says TBD, so we don't know at this point.
Well, yeah. That means if Minnesota wins, it'll be earlier.
Oh, well, if there is a game 6 for the T-Wolves, it'll be in Minnesota, so that would be the early game.
Correct.
So my guess is
it'll be a late game.
My guess it'd probably be a 7:30.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 7 no matter what. I've never seen a Warriors game at home not. Well, maybe there was an exception. I think that with the conference finals, they make it earlier, but I would guess 7 p.m. Yeah, so
I think
be
you're
9:35.
Being that it's a Friday night, they probably would start the Minnesota game at 5 our time, and then I bet you they'd push that back to.
No, they probably do what they did tonight.
Right.
4:30 and 7.
Exactly. Right. Have you seen Sinners yet?
Oh yeah, it's unreal. I saw it on IMAX.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
So it's Sinners?
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Okay.
So good.
Accountant 2 is good too.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's good.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Frank.
All right.
By the way, we're gonna have Warriors against Giants Friday night, huh?
Whoa, Dan. Ooh.
Dan, that's going to be a tough one for you.
They're going to be tugging at your heartstrings, man.
Actually, I got a dilemma. It's not really a dilemma. My daughter's graduating from college, so I'm going to that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say.
What's the dilemma?
Well, I said it's not really a dilemma. I mean, I'm not going to be able to watch either game unless the graduation is over by. I'm hoping it's over by 8:30. And
how devoted are you? I mean, will you go earpiece? Will you sit there like this? Like, yes. You know, like in the middle of the graduation, they're like, What's going on with that guy over there?
Yeah.
Will you be that guy that's more devoted to your sports?
I'll be very quiet. But I will be able to look what's going on. Sometimes I can look and see with no volume and just kind of look.
There you go, Dan.
Well, YouTube TV.
Graduation.
On the download
speech. Yes.
Graduations. How exciting graduations? It's, until your kid comes up, that's all you really care about, right?
I always love this one too. Thank you for all attending the graduation. If you guys could wait till the end to applaud for each graduate, we would really appreciate it. Everybody's like, yeah, yep. And then Leo Johnson. Woo, Leo! Way to go, Leo! Man, never thought you'd make it, bro. You know, I mean, it's like
that's never stopping either.
I mean, it's like immediately everybody starts.
That goes forever.
Yeah.
By the way, I agree with Julian Bashir, who writes real fast that Michael B. Jordan, who stars in Sinners, should be the next Black Panther. I feel like that goes without saying, right? I mean, you could figure it out pretty easily with the multiverse stuff to script it and make that a reality. I think he alluded to that too in an interview recently, that he might actually be the the Black Panther. Yeah. I mean, Frank, you're a huge movie buff. I mean, would you like that move?
Absolutely. And I mean, the move that I really like is Ryan Coogler getting the rights to Sinners 25 years from now.
Yeah.
That's big time, man.
Yes,
so,
it is. Oakland Zone.
That's my goal to be a part of making a movie. You guys know I've written a movie script before.
I did not know that. I know you've written music. I didn't know you wrote a movie.
Yes.
Is there maybe a tiny role in it for Danny?
Of course.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Thanks.
Of course.
Tiny little cameo.
Yeah. I probably should give a title, but the title is Mr. Samuels Meets the Phoenix.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
Dan lives in Arizona.
I'll play Bill Belichick as the coach and have the 24-year-old girlfriend there, huh?
I have a movie script that I've got coming out. It's called The HOA, starring Dan Coccimiglio.
Hey, I sold my house. I sold it today.
You sold your house?
The condo. Yeah, right. The one you came down with, it's gone.
PMG says
Closed
Shadur
today.
in Frank's movie.
The HOA. You still have that somewhere in your queue, Larry? That was hilarious.
Oh, I wish I did. Oh, I see a hole in the roof. Oh.
When was I on
all these like menopausal sounding sighs.
That had to be 2022. That had to be in 2022.
Menopausal size. I love
I didn't realize there was problems at the ceiling.
Oh my god.
It was like a Doug and Wendy Weiner from the SNL back in the day. We don't want to sit in the corner. Do you guys remember Doug and Wendy Weiner? Classic. SNL.
All right. Are we good? Are we done?
We're good.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you.